Hello and welcome. This is week 3, Analytics for Business and Decision Making. Our today's topic is first branching operator that we're going to cover. This is called if-else statement. So actually it's one of the major stones in programming where we can modify the flow of our code when we can place several conditions, and depending on those conditions we can select what type of execution we can provide. So actually these are the syntax. The syntax for the conditional operator if. We already provided you an example in the previous week, but still let's cover the code. So if operator, you can see that the coloring of this operator is different because it is considered as a keyword, and here we can provide some kind of logic, let's say. So here's the logic. We try to compare the variable answer, which got the text input. So there will be some string inside the answer variable. So if answer equals to something that we already know that we need to check, for example, if this is like Python, then we must place the column operator in order for the code to understand that this is the ending of the condition check. All right. So once we place the column operator and we hit enter, the next line of code will start with the indentation. There will be 4 idents by default. And here, if we satisfy the condition, if answer is indeed Python, then we can print something as an output. So once we connect to the virtual computer, we run the code and get the, so if we entered Python, it's generally checked and answers great. So if we entered something else than Python, for example C, then it does not react and doesn't respond anyhow. So this is the basis of programming, the basis of conditional operator. Don't forget to use the column operator after if. If you have forgotten, for example, if we remove that and try to hit enter, you can see that by default it has no indentation. But if we place the column operator and then hit enter, it automatically understands that now all the code which goes after line 2, now it considered to be inside if condition. So it will be executed inside if condition. You can consider that as the beginning and the ending of C code. Just like that, the curly brackets in C is the beginning and end of the block of code. So here indentation deals with the same task. All right, now of course this program only checks the single word Python. But what if we entered something else? Maybe we need to output something else in this case. So I'm just copying the previous code over here and provide another keyword. In this case, the keyword will be called else. And again, after the keyword else, I'm placing the column operator and hit enter. And Python understands that there should be an indentation of 4 spaces, and you can print the same. Again, if you missed the previous code block, save link as of the ABDM week 3, load it upload it, file, upload notebook, place the ABDM big3 over here, and start with this code. All right? So this is the whole idea of if-else construct. So if I place C, here's the answer, now we study different language, is executed immediately. Alright, so indentation, please be careful with this indentation. Maintain 4 spaces. If you have different setting, you can change those settings inside the tools and settings. If you hit tools, settings, here in the editor you can change the indentation width from 2 to 4 spaces. Place 4 spaces. It will be much better. Once again, it is situated over here. Tools, settings, editor. And place 4 spaces. I also recommend you for the personal use to set the font size. Set the font size to 18 or larger. It will be easier for you to distinguish between like comma and semicolon and all other small parts of code. Alright, next what I suggest you to have a look at least there are special standards, the style guide, and if you Google that, PEP 8 study guide, and there are simple rules. For example, a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds, and here are some examples provided how to properly do that. For example, correct thing, wrong thing, how to make tabs or spaces, and spaces are preferred. So you can create actually this code. For example, you missed to place the column here and hit enter, and you placed another line with no indentation. You can hit tab. But this is the wrong way. I suggest, and the PEP 8 style suggests that you just typed 4 spaces. This is what it's all about. But don't forget about the else column. All right. So if you have time, just have a look at that. Maintain the maximum length of 79 characters. It's again easy for you to deal with less than 80 characters per line, just in order for possibilities of magnifying or showing your code to someone else or printing the code. Again, 80 characters is the maximum. So make some useful ideas out of PEP 8 style. All right, next thing that we need to cover are comparison operators. Of course, we already checked the comparison operator double equal sign. So like here, if answer equals to Python. So unlike assignment operator, which is a single equality, to check the equality in the language, we need to provide double equal sign. It doesn't matter what we check, just maintain that if we type with quotation marks, the content inside is considered as text. If we type without quotation marks, it is considered as integer. If we have placed the brackets, around brackets, for example, it is considered as set. Placed square brackets, it will be considered as list. So there are different data structures, and it generally checks whether the value here, for example, is integer. It checks whether the array over here is some values inside. We haven't covered arrays so far, or lists in another word, but it just checks whether this left-hand side equals to this right-hand side. All right, so what are equals to? Check the equality. So there are 6 basic comparison operators. Here they are. Less than, more than, less than or equal to, more than or equal to, equality and inequality. So the last one, not equal to. Sometimes you need to combine those comparisons to form such constructs like A equal to B equal to C, or 1 less than or equal to X less than or equal to 10. So these constructs are actually preferable, and you can use them to simplify your code. Right, whether the polls from 3 to 6. So let's say age variable. Age variable equals to something, and we check if age. And then we need to check whether the age is in range from 3 to 6. So we just place 3 and 6 out there, check with the double comparison operator. Less than or equal to 6. Don't forget to place column mark and then print. For example, some output. So obviously the age is 3. We can change this age to some value inside. We can change the age to some value outside. And it doesn't mean anything. So the chain comparison operators are quite useful. You just simplify your code and can allow you to avoid AND keyword in this case. So here in this code, it's the equivalent code. So obviously this one is not correct, so it checks whether age is more or equal to 3, and upon the initial check, all the rest code is not executed because the condition is false. But if we place 50, yes, age more or equal to 3, we go inside the code. 50 less than or equal to 6, then we just not satisfy the condition, we cannot print anything. But we can print something else. Something like that. By modifying the condition and executing the code, it will output the same. So those code blocks, the first one and the second one, they are identical. Let me make it identical. Okay. So in order to simplify the code and avoid a couple of checks, you can place them in the chain operator. Sometimes you might need several conditions placed, and you'll see this kind of ladder which might go beyond your screen. In this setting, you might try to group those conditional operators or use special keywords, which we will cover a little bit later today. So the code that checks the equality of three variables. How can we use? Let's create three variables. B equals say 1 and C equals 0. We might save some time and implement the setting like ABC equals 0. We can assign variables like that. So obviously those ABC are not the same, but to check whether they are the same, we're using the chain comparison operator, A equal to B equal to C. If that is true, then print so obviously here they'll be printed as not equal. Change to 1, they'll be printed as equal. Alright, all other comparison operators can be used in the same setting. So less than or equal to, more than or equal to, not equal to can be used, but I have to caution you of usage not equal to. If A not equal to B, B not equal to C, that doesn't mean that A not equal to C, or so we have to use special AND keywords to separate those conditions. The thing that I started to talk about is called transitivity. Transitivity. So here, if A equals B, B equals C, then it follows that A equals C. All of them are all right. Order relation is also transitive. If A more than B, B more than C, then obviously A more than C. If the lines are parallel, first two lines parallel, A parallel B, B parallel C, then A parallel C. It also works. Divisibility also works, like here, some value divisible by B, B divisible by C, then the first value divisible by C. But not equal to is not transitive operation, so you have to be very, very cautious about that. So if A not equal to B, B not equal to C, that doesn't mean that A not equal to C. All right, so here in this example, let's verify the string. Again, it's a very easy thing. We have already done that. If some string equals yes. Again, the whole idea is to read what you are supposed to output. The program should output. If it should output yes with these quotation marks, so you can place those quotation marks inside the output. Again, you can place those quotation marks inside the output. So A obviously is not Python, it is set to something else. We can always check what A is just by creating another chunk of code and placing A, it shows that it contains variable 1, the value 1. Obviously, it's not Python. But if we have set somewhere previously that A equals to Python, run this code, check this code, it will show yes. The thing is, if you need to output yes with the double quotation marks, like here, create the single quotation marks on the left and right hand side of your output. If for some reason you need to create the yes in single quotation marks, then I create double quotation marks initially, then place single quotation marks inside, I place yes, just like that. It will print yes like that. So here in the second example, our task is to check. Our task is to check a 2-digit number input. Both digits are identical. So here, if we try to check the input, we might capture this input as string, and then just analyze the string as the first character and the second character. So we are expecting a 2-digit integer, but we are not placing the int outside the input. What should we do? We should check, first of all, if the input is actually 2-digit length of user input. So here we verify that the length of user input equals 2. Then we check if user input is digit. First digit. Remember, in Python, all numeration starts with 0, so this will be the first character, and the second digit, user input 1. Then we check if first digit equals to second digit. In this case, we print yes. So here on to what if we enter not the number but some value, HH, and it does the program just doesn't print anything, but we can warn the user that you have entered something wrong. First of all, we can warn the user to enter something in the input window. For example, enter 2-digit number, just like that, and the user will see enter 2-digit number to the left-hand side of the user input. But again, it doesn't prevent us to warn the user that he or she entered something incorrectly. Let's check what the program actually does. If length of the user input equals 2, then we can provide the else condition over here. For example, like this. So here will be another line of code which just warns the user that, or expect. If the user entered something which is not digit, so this condition fails to check that it is digit, then we go all along the code over here. Just maintain that the first if operator and else operator must be on the same with the same indentation. So here if and else operator, the code block is belongs to the same condition. This code block and this else also are going to be checked whether the user input is digit. If yes, then those lines of code will be executed. Else, print digits. So the one thing that I did, I executed the program and then I started to modify something inside the program. So here, look what I modified after the program started to execute. You can see this rotating wheel. You can see that it requires me to enter something inside. You can see that the program execution is counting seconds, 34 seconds already. And I intentionally place something wrong inside. So here, non-digits inputted. Hold on. So for example, I remove this space. Then run the program. Then place something inside. For example, this hyphen. Enter 2-digit number. Let's enter 2 letters. For example, 9K. And here we can see that despite we have already changed the word to be with the hyphen, the previous code which didn't contain executed. So that means if you change something, make sure that the program is not running. First of all, provide all the changes, then run the program. Just a little precaution for you. So the code looks quite complex, but you have to understand how to read the code. You always start with the first line of code. Here's the outer condition, here's the inner condition, and here's another condition. So the most inner condition will be executed only if the first two outer conditions are satisfied. It means they are true. The only result of the checking of the condition is a binary variable, either true or false. So if length of user input is true, is 2, that means we can proceed with the program. If we entered something else, then we proceed with the outer else. The same kind of thing. Input is digit, yes, let's check the first digit and the second digit. If they are okay, print yes. If not a digit, then just print this line and finish the program. If you have any questions, raise your hand. All right, let me stop the recording.